Well, YouTube, welcome once again to another review of a SyFy Channel original. And because it's on SyFy, you know it's going to be good. And by good, I mean bad. This week we had Age of Dragons, probably the most misleading title I have yet to see on the SyFy Channel. Why? Because this isn't an... Alright, yeah, there's dragons in there, yeah, there's an age, but this is... It's Moby Dick. It's Moby Dick. They don't even hide the fact that it's Moby Dick. It's blatantly Moby Dick. Even the official descriptions describe it as a reinterpretation of Moby Dick. I did not realize that at first. Which they've... You know what? I'll just describe how I was brought into this movie. They start off showing a family going around and a dragon attacking people and mentioning the character's name is Ahab. I'm like, and there's a white dragon. I'm like, that kind of sounds like Moby Dick. And at first I was like, this is a sci-fi. They probably are going to be ripping off Moby Dick a little bit. Okay, and then they introduce the main character after that. It's supposed to be years later after this white dragon comes down and kills Danny Glover's family. And they say his name is Ishmael, and at that point I was just like, really? It's like they took a plot synopsis of Moby Dick, which apparently they did, and this word replaced whale for dragon. That's literally it. So they get Ishmael and his buddy Queequeg. I think that's how... I can't remember how they pronounced it. But, yeah, they take him. They sign up for a dragon ship. Which, okay, I was at first thinking it was a flying ship. But before that, I almost forgot to mention this. The reason why they go out and hunt dragons is so they can get the vitriol, which is like the dragon's breath, in their throats, so they can use lamps. They literally are even using the whale blubber analogy directly. It's not like they're reinterpreting it in any way to fit like a fantasy universe, and it's just I mean, there's reinterpreting, and there's just taking it and changing one element, not even changing characters' names. And that's what this is. But it's hilarious in how it's done. When the beginning of this film is hilarious. It's one of those so good it's bad, because they're just so going for the Moby Dick story. They should have just made Moby Dick, but they go for it so much it becomes very comically inept for the first 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes, the first act of this film. But then after that, the movie drags. But before I get into the dragging, I should talk about the vitriol, that stuff. That was comically bad. How they couldn't even think of anything else to use with this stuff that explodes upon contact, which they don't really even use in the movie. They show it like it can be thrown like a hand grenade, and at first I was like, it's Chekhov's gun. They're gonna use that. They don't. Like, they show that if you have a vial of stuff and you chuck it, it's a massive explosion. So, of course, your assumption is later on in the film that's going to come into play. Somebody's going to chuck that stuff and there's going to be a huge-ass explosion. No, doesn't happen. Unless they did that in, like, the 2 seconds I missed because I was in the bathroom. That's bad. I was right there watching the entire thing. During a commercial break, I ran... got back, and it must have only been for a few seconds. So unless they used that grenade in a few seconds, they literally had a scene that had absolutely no point, a point that had no point. But I really have to talk about the ship, or vessel as they call it. At first, when they were talking about signing up for a vessel, I'm assuming they're talking about a flying ship, which is a common element to fantasy. I'm not going to question it. It makes sense for hunting dragons that fly in the sky. You're picturing basically like a ship, regular, sailing vessel. Only you cut the sails off and you attach a big, giant floating balloon thing. Sometimes in some fantasy universes, it's even not like that. They put like kind of wing things, and we just kind of buy that it flies. It's a fantasy universe. There's dragons flying around. You're gonna buy that. Yeah, I can buy this. It would have been actually more useful to say like they used the dragon breath or the vitriol to actually be able to make ships fly. And that, yeah, this is a dragon hunting vessel, and other ships use it for regular commerce. That's a more interesting interpretation than they're using lighting. Why? Because the ship is not that. It's not a flying ship. Their vessel is literally a float. I'm not even kidding. This thing is you would expect to see this in the Macy's Day Parade. Not even that. Like it's what's the one in it's a Mardi Gras float, just without the festive stuff, and looking rather bleak because it's like a cheap fake iron, which is probably really cheap aluminum or whatever the hell they were able to scrap together in Bulgaria. Got the local Bulgarian float crew and gave them a couple $1,000s to make a float for them. Because that's literally what this thing is. It drives around. It's not like they just did an incompetent job and it's supposed to be like it's floating. No. This thing clearly drives. It just drives around on the ground, and that's what they use to go around hunt vessels. Like, you're kind of going, why don't you just have an encampment? Why don't you just have people on horses, something more maneuverable? Have a cart or two. There's no reason to have this driving thing. One, because it takes about at least 2 lanes worth of traffic, and you're supposed to be driving around the woods. Now, I don't know about other people, but the woods I've been in, I'm lucky to find a path that I can just walk down. These guys are apparently driving around the wilderness in the mountains on a vehicle that has like 1-inch ground clearance. They shouldn't be able to get 5 feet out of the city with this thing, let alone hunt dragons and chase them down on this float. And it's comical when you see it. And the other thing, you're kind of wondering, wait, these guys are using this dragon breath just for lighting, like as a candle. Literally because whale blubber was used for, lighting candles back when they wrote Moby Dick. If you are advanced enough to create a vehicle that you can just drive around, A, why don't you have smaller vehicles? And B, do you really need... something's powering this thing. Do you really need to invest all this money? Apparently these guys get filthy rich by getting this stuff. You can't develop something else to make this technology work? You can't develop something else for a light, like electricity? What's powering the vessel? That's what I want to know. If you want to say that the dragon's breath powering it, that would be another good thing, but I don't recall them ever saying that. Because that would have been another thing that would have probably helped justify the expense. But then again, you get into the whole, why don't they have smaller vehicles to get around the woods in? Why don't they have like a Humvee type thing? Why? Because it wouldn't be an exact copy of Moby Dick then. That's the reason why. And they strap themselves to this just changing one element of Moby Dick. And in fact, they have to change 2 because they have to make from land to ocean, because apparently it probably was too expensive to the ocean, and dragons aren't known to fly over the ocean. They have, actually, for a sci-fi channel, I must say, the dragons are pretty good special effects, which makes me kind of wonder why they... I guess they really probably broke the entire budget with that, but come on. You can't give us like 2 or 3 shots of a ship flying, and then this rest not clearly show that they're flying. Shoot interior, shoot on a deck, but it's not show that it's on the ground. They could have done that. No, instead they're driving around in a fucking float. But it's hilarious. It's hilarious when you see this thing drive off. I was laughing out loud. My parents in the other room probably were going, "What the hell was I doing?" It was hilarious. And so is everything else. So is everything in the first 30 minutes. It's hilariously bad. It's one of those films you can watch. But then after that, much like the real Moby Dick, it fucking starts to drag. It drags really hard. And because it's trying to develop character, and it's kind of comically inept in that, because you know what it's trying to do, because it's so obviously just Moby Dick. You're like, really? You guys are trying this? Really? That's my reaction to the entire thing. Uh, I should get into some of the actors. Danny Glover. Oh man, Danny Glover. Come on, man. You were in Lethal Weapon. You were in all the Lethal Weapons. You were in Predator 2, man. What happened to you that you're in this thing? Then again, I did see Patrick Swayze in one of the movies on SyFy Channel earlier in the day. But still, it's actually kind of comical. They have his version of Ahab is even more messed up. He's scarred, burned all over, so he has a makeup job on him. I mean, you could really tell for a SyFy Channel movie they were actually going for something really ambitious. So they got Danny Glover and Vinnie Jones, and I think they had a much grander version for this thing, more grander than they could pull off. But he is chewing the scenery in everything he's in. So it's kind of enjoyable, but it does get really tiring after a while. But his character is limping, and he's Captain Ahab. Literally, his name's Captain Ahab. He's chasing the white dragon, which, by the way, is more of a white and red dragon. They kind of messed that one up a little bit. They could have made it a pure. I mean, they probably did it for contextual reasons, so you can kind of make him out compared to what's virtually a white or light gray background. But still, that's another thing I noticed. It's more of a white and some red dragon. But his character's chewing it up. They also changed a little bit of his character from the books. They make him a little bit more of a murderer, I think. That's my opinion. I never read the book, I should say, in its entirety. Mainly because I didn't want to read a couple hundred pages of just pure description of how they extract the blubber and stuff. Speaking of extraction, though, Vinnie Jones is also in this. As I didn't even recognize it was him. He's kind of fallen off the radar too for a while, but I like how he's kind of put on the poster, which you can see there. He plays like, I mean, yeah, he's in the movie. He's in there for most of the movie, but he's not the main character. Like the main character Ishmael's not even on the main character. Ishmael's not in there, and the other supporting character is Rose, the daughter of Ahab. I'm gonna get into that in a second, but actually, no. I should get into that right now, because the next thing I was going to talk about Vinnie Jones, I should also then talk about Rose. They insert a daughter of Ahab into the film, and I do kind of... This one's a mix, because it's obviously a fantasy film. It's obviously done huge deviations from the original book, but I do kind of hate when they take one of these classic novels that had an all-male characters basically in it, and they try to insert female characters for broader appeal and putting a love interest purely for that. Mostly that's with 20,000 Leagues Under Sea, because it completely changes, because they force this character into it, they completely change the dynamics of the story. But for whatever reason, executives always insist that they do this, and it ruins the story, it ruins what they were trying to relay, and this is another example on that, where they now... I mean, this one, it's so far, at least it's far enough away from the book that you're like, they're already messing with things. But they do kind of fundamentally change, I think, some of the characterization of Ahab by giving him this daughter character. And if you really wanted to just do a Moby Dick in Fantasyland, I guess I don't mind her being in there. But I did want to kind of bring that up, because I probably not gonna have another shot at that when they bring in kind of female characters. I mean, I don't mind when they have a female character in a fantasy film or anything else. I'm just talking about something that's a classic story and didn't have a love interest or a female character in it, and they bring in a female character to create a love interest. I mean, you can probably do it if you're just bringing in a female actress to fill a role and you're not doing it as a love interest. I probably wouldn't mind that at all. But when they do it, this one, like I said, it's far enough away, I don't mind too much. But they do bring this Rose, and they make her, of course, the tough, badass woman. Not much there, but there is a rape scene with her and Vinnie Jones, and it is one of the worst rape scenes I've seen in a while. And I'll put it this way: all right, it's when it's going on, they're so bland. And it's not like it's one of those scenes where they try to show, oh, the victim is detaching herself to psychologically survive the rape. Okay, that's good when you can get an actress to do that and they're bland and you're. But here's the thing: in this scene, she's supposed to be pissed as hell, and she has like the most nonchalant. I'm gonna kill you after this is done. Basically, how she does it. Vinny Jones, Vinny Jones is there. You like this? Yes, you do. I gave him more. I think I just put more character into my performance right there than he did. It's such a bland scene. You're kind of looking. It's the only other scene after the beginning. Later on, I was like, that was so poorly done. He's like, shout. You can't. No one's here to help you. Literally, while this is going on, they're just right outside of the float, putting anchors down. Don't you have brakes on this thing? It has wheels. But yeah, they're putting anchors down. So there's literally like this, like a few inches of wood between them and the rest of the crew. You can go help, and everyone else is going to come back inside. Which kind of also ruins the film. Actually, somebody does come inside and finds them. The performance was just so blandly done. Like, there was absolutely no emotion in the entire thing. It was bad. And it was so bad I actually could laugh at it because the actress. She really didn't seem to care. Yet her character is obviously supposed to. The lines are obviously supposed to. It's just that the actress has no personality or no real ability to pull it off. I think she had too much into her. I think she just doesn't have much of an acting range. Who knows? Maybe it's the director's fault. Maybe sometimes you really can't blame the actors for this stuff because the director goes, no, don't do that. I want something else, and they force the actors to do something. Maybe that's why she gave such a bad performance, is because of the director. But yeah, eventually they wind up chasing this dragon, which actually they get to a mountain. They get to a mountain. They finally stop and go, we can't go any further. They can't get up. The vessel can't get up there. No shit. I don't know how this thing got this far to begin with. How they found somehow a path wide enough to wind through there. He's got maps too and stuff. And they're supposed to be going through these mountains the entire time. I don't know. They go up there. They confront the white dragon. Spoiler alerts. Ahab had killed Rose's father because he ran away. Because Ahab, as a young man, ran away from the fucking dragon when he was unarmed. Was attacking his family. We're just out in the middle of a field for no reason. I was a coward. You were fucking unarmed, and a dragon was there that shot fire. That's not being a coward. That's being fucking. That's a fucking dragon's in front of you, and you don't have a weapon. It's bad, but yeah, they confront. Ahab kills Cutie Pie, whatever his name is. He kills him. The dragon comes in, kills Ahab. They decide to let the dragon go because it saved their lives. They had a bit of an environmental message in this one too. When they go and they kill a bunch of I forget if this scene is kind of in the book, but they kill a bunch of dragons in a cave, and then Ahab, before they can send their extractor in, they kind of take the glands out. Ahab sees the dragons and he commands them to leave it, and they get all like, but we killed something for nothing. I'm kind of thinking like real 18th century guys would probably not cared as much, but they were kind of more hardy people, more just pissed that they weren't going to get the money for their work. But I guess that's a little bit of a respect nature. That's why the Quigpie guy is all like upset that they just kind of killed it for no reason. Yeah. But yeah, it's a bad. Now, is it so bad it's good that you should really go out and see this? It's not. I wouldn't, unless you were a really big Ahab fan or Moby Dick fan. Probably not, because it really does drag. The movie, for all the fun you get out of seeing really stupid stuff in the first 20 minutes, after that, much like the book, it drags a bit. And it though I will say, the humor does come because they take this film dead serious, and I do like when they do that, because when a film tries to be silly on purpose, it fails. But when a film is serious and it's silly, it wins. Unfortunately, though, it does drag. It's a very bleak film. It's fucking Moby Dick. It, not much more you can say for this. And I've already gone on for 20 minutes on a film that really shouldn't go on. I mean, really, I will say though this. I guess the performances for a Sci-Fi Channel film are a little better than I've seen on a lot. Especially from fucking Danny Glover, who just chooses scenery every time he's on screen. Although, I almost forgot to mention this. I almost guarantee you they did this because they couldn't afford to pay Danny Glover for too many days. They say because he's burned when he's out in sunlight, he has to wear protective clothing, which is this ridiculous cloak outfit, which if you've ever seen Pulse 2, it looks like the guy dressed in red at the beginning of Pulse 2. It just has a few white pieces in there. And he doesn't talk when he has the outfit on, and you can kind of just tell that they had this as a setup so they could have the character in there more than they had the actor. So when he wants to come out and inspect something, he goes, I found a tooth. He just shows the tooth, mind you. Then in the next scene, he's back on the ship. Danny Glover has his thing off and he's talking. So obviously they didn't have the money to pay Danny Glover for all the scenes that his character was in the movie. It was good. If you really want to just waste some time, there's certainly other Sci-Fi Channel movies out there that'll drive you crazy. And there's other movies out there, stuff that I haven't reviewed or else I'd reference them, that really drag. It's at least well written, but I have a feeling the only reason it's well written is because they're taking a lot of stuff from the novel and just modifying it slightly. But hey, I've talked 22 minutes now. Yeah. So that's my take on this film. You've just listened to me talk about a film for 22 minutes. That's a very bad film on the Sci-Fi Channel. To anyone who's actually listened this long, I salute you. So, tell me what you guys think. Do you guys want me to review more Sci-Fi Channel movies? I know this is the second one I did. I really want to hear back. If you guys appreciate these type of reviews on the Sci-Fi Channel, tell me. If you think I should just stick to the more mainstream films, tell me. If you hate my voice, as a few people have said, tell me. It's always interesting. Although I really can't change that aspect now, can I? And now I'm rambling on. Thus I shall end this brief video/podcast. Which, by the way, that's what this show really is. It's a podcast. But I'm digressing again. Signing off. See you guys whenever I see something else to review.